The reason I have different glasses today is we have this weird post that was built in the middle of the restaurant inexplicably. And
Mhm.
in the pitch, you cannot see it. I have been in this building for over 6 years, and I ran face first into that pillar yesterday, which shattered my eyes.
Oh God.
No. Hey, man, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I've just been, I mean, it's been a weird 2 weeks where I'm actually doing about 6 to 7 hours of work here and 6 to 7 in OKC. Yeah, so it's been rough.
That's a lot of reading. You
Hmm.
should have been a lawyer. You get to bill for every one of those hours.
I know, like sometimes I have to read something for like 3 hours for a 30-minute conversation with somebody.
I, I I honestly couldn't do that. My ADD is too bad, but it's worked out well for my life, just not for stuff like that. Well, I've been watching the news here, so we've got we've got a county commissioner that people are asking to resign, including me. I did as well. Our
Hmm.
state school superintendent just got shot down in the Oklahoma Supreme Court. Evidently, it hasn't been purchased like the national Supreme Court. Um, and and then his guy is in deep trouble. His chief policy advisor, and now they've just caught him on doing a no bid process with an old friend for 10 years out of Texas. I mean,
Nice.
it's circling. Yeah, I don't know when it goes down, but we're getting there. There's an election on the 18th, and depending on who wins the election, it will be politically advantageous for some scumbag to either let them go or go for them, and that's my guess.
Wait, can I tell you, when you were mayor and you ran such a decent, you did a very decent job. Why weren't you open to all this corruption, Sean? Come on.
So in reality, and I mean this, both
Hmm.
Kathy and I are in positions where maybe you get to make some decision over millions of dollars.
Hmm.
Nobody ever offered either one of us, and that's really the truth.
Yeah, they probably
Which
already
makes
knew you guys.
which makes you think it's cleaner than it is, but you, that's the real money's in the legislature. They have $15 billion a year to spend,
Mm.
billion, and then they've realized they believe the money is in schools because that's where half of the budget goes. Well, schools never have any money. So the money's not in the schools. The money is in selling stuff to the schools. That's where the
Mm.
money is. Right.
Yeah,
Because
like those
out that
standardized
you
testing companies, don't they make like billions out of like every educational institution right now?
it does nothing for anybody as far as telling me how you're going to do in life. It just teaches you how to take a test. Because you have to think like teachers do. So they go in and like 20% of the kids in the state of Oklahoma have some version of what would be called a disability, like they're eligible for an IEP. This is according to an expert friend of mine.
Hmm.
And I've, that seems awfully high. And she goes, yeah, but those are the numbers. So if teachers have that many difficult kids to deal with because they need more issues, more anything, if our money went into that
Hmm.
more than it does, just because regular students, if you have a two-parent family and both you have income, food, not a dangerous neighborhood, nobody's getting shot down the street throughout the night, you will do just fine in life.
Yeah.
It's this 20% that are in really horrible situations and everything else that we will all be one way or another paying for their whole lives just if we don't take care of it when they're little. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. A stitch in
So
time saves nine.
yeah, I know. My God. Yeah, it's kind of sad that you've got a bunch of men, and nothing personal against men, but we just don't know this stuff. So generally, men are not involved with their schools teachers. They are generally not involved with lunch programs. They are generally not in. You know what we do? We drop kids off at school in the morning, and even if my wife works, she still does that, which
Yeah.
is odd that we. Now, I was not that way. I was a single dad, so I was the one that I sent desserts to the school every day, and whenever we had parent teacher conferences, it was really fun because I knew all of them. I'm
Mm.
just finding out this. And even though we were a divorced family, we had two college-educated, involved parents. Well, neither one of them are in jail yet. It worked
Fingers
out.
crossed.
And the three girls are the best example. Two have master's degree and one has a regular college degree.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy and I, college educated, both involved parents and safe, reliable home, and we had incomes.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Stable settings actually promotes growth, I guess.
Because you can think about it. Look, if you're hungry, that quote of, requiring prayer in school but not free lunch is the quote of the century. I mean, that is really what religion is that exactly?
Yeah, Alex sent that to me and he was like, you need to show this to Sean, where they require like prayer is mandatory, but serving the kids who are praying lunch is not mandatory.
Or it's actually looked down upon because you're making them weak. There are parts of this part of the country I do not understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the area of the country, the southeastern part of the United States, which we are barely on the outside of. The religious dogma is just different from what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nuts. But that's what we got going on. Hey, let me mention something about Joe Biden, and that way they won't put off of here. So I just want to point out his son got convicted of arms charges yesterday, which means he bought a gun when he was addicted to a substance years ago. Do you hear anybody yelling and screaming that the judicial system is bad or anything else, even though he would not have been charged if he wasn't the president's son?
Do you know, I actually expected Wayne LaPierre to show up and yell about gun rights. I was like, where the hell are you? And I need you to come scream.
Finally enforced a gun law. Oh my God. That's actually what you hear people say.
Mm-hmm.
Guy did it. He did it. You don't hear Joe out there yelling and screaming about the system. It's really ironic how all of this is rolled together at the same time, and you get to see how different two sides look.
Yeah.
How does it look from your guys' end? I'm just interested in, what do you see on it?
Like, to be very honest with you, did you see that recent show that Chappelle did in Abu Dhabi where Biden got boos and Trump got cheers?
Oh,
it's
wow.
the same dynamic in India. For some reason that we seem to lean toward strong men because they're like, if you take Trump and you dump him in a Bollywood movie, he will basically come out as the star of that movie because he's just so fucking weird. So I think that's what appeals to the Indian audience as well. Because I would like a lot of my friends when they meet me, they'll ask me, they're like, "Isn't Joe Biden not doing anything?" And I was like, "What do you want him to do, guys? Y'all have got used to that Trump news cycle where you'll heard something that Trump did every day." Because
So what I would say from a person that's been in a small version of government, your job is to keep the train on the tracks on time. And then you can make small changes around it to make it better for people or worse for people or better for business. You do have the ability to make those choices. I'll give you a weird example. We do not have buses that run through our city. And now homeless population that has exploded in Oklahoma City, our real estate's done really well, so a whole bunch of people can't afford it. So they're sleeping outside now. Well, we have a homeless problem in the village because they don't have a way to get there.
Oh.
So your choice is, do you fix the bus problem, which maybe 10 constituents need, but then 1,000 constituents are furious at what came on the bus? Or do you just keep the rails on and keep it going down the road?
Isn't that same question that we talked about in like episode 30 or something about mobility of labor, workforce, capital? Like the free movement of capital also requires the free movement of labor to service that capital. But
and down here, people say, yeah, it shouldn't be free. And you go, you don't pay them enough money to buy a car. It has to be. I mean, once again, back to these arguments of cruelty. Oh, when I was a kid, we had it so tough we could walk 4 miles, and
But you could also
whatever.
buy a house for 10 grand and sit on it where it's now $1 million. Yeah.
So my first house was $45,000, which at the time did not seem like much money either. So I'm not acting like it was some phenomenal. Well, I upgraded the house. The next people upgraded the house, and this is the stuff nobody takes into consideration. So then it was sold, but then it was a 3-story house, and I had a 1-story house.
No.
So I was that brilliant in real estate, but it sold for 345 grand. But realized that was 40 years ago when I bought it.
Yeah.
Is it worth 345? No, but it's probably worth 150 or 170. I mean, there was a lot of work done on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. We're trying to create a rental society with a real estate deal. And God forbid all the boomers need to be able to get their checks each month out of their retirement. So everybody's.
This is the weird part about even real estate, where it was that similar thing to what we were talking about, like Olive Garden and Red Lobster and stuff, where right now a lot of real estate is actually owned by venture capital funds and not by individual landowners like before. You no longer have a landlord to talk to. You have a property management company to go to who will get in touch with you and fix that problem if the landlord is paying his monthly subscription to them to manage that property.
And if they're not, you get no money. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the modern economy. I mean, so they're coming and buying swaths of property. Then you have Airbnb competing for homes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm a person that has a large home that we raised 5 children in, my wife, myself, and one of my nephews lived with us for a while. We had a lot of people living in that property. So I only need about 35% of it. So one way or another, I'm going to rent the other 65%, whether it be Airbnb, roommates, or whatever it takes. But that's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I mean, is it a solution, anything? No, it's a solution for me. I'm like taking care of a big old house. Yeah. I think that makes sense. I don't know where all that goes. I don't know where the next generation becomes available to afford it. I think we're at a crux here right now. And politically, I think that's why the far right swing has happened. Things are out of control. So somebody wants to come in and control the out of control. I think this is the way that goes. And I don't know. You guys have this all the time. We have a huge homeless population.
Yeah.
That seems like. So here, I'm talking to the mayor of Oklahoma City at an event, and he goes, it costs so much money to solve. And I go, should we have thought of that on the front end? Like a stitch in time saves 9. And, there's no real answer. And I like him. He's an all right guy, but, everything's about money down here. So I'm in the middle of a scandal at the county commissioners where they had a guy that was supposed to be on this bond board. And what you mean by a bond board is they have oversight over the bond spending so it doesn't get wasted.
Okay.
He was sitting in with the Chamber of Commerce trying to aggregate or put together packages of land to be able to sell out of the old jail deal, even before they had a new jail thing. And so you go, Chamber of Commerce wants the jail out of downtown here. For some reason, they think that'll bring people in, as if these guys really know. And then another county commissioner had an old friend that bought property for $1.4 million and just sold it for $5 million to the county. They bought it yesterday. And so I'm watching open air problems just everywhere. And so, but we're a one party state. I don't know who you get to convict anybody, much less charge. I mean, politically, it's not expedient going after your own people.
Yeah. Is there ever a chance of, wasn't Oklahoma Democratic at some point? Like
100 years, and they evidently were equally as bad back then.
Yeah. No, okay. Mm-hmm.
It just to be a good old boy club issue more than a mafia issue or something like that. I don't know. All I do is show it and move on. We have a huge election coming up in 6 days, and that is going to determine much like your guys, is do we stay on the path of this super right or do we move back a little left? And there's a couple of wild, we have people from Texas basically coming up here and running for office because it's legal at a federal level.
Oh, wow. I would have
From
known.
another state, running in our state. Nobody knows them. They don't have a house here. They don't have shit, but they're rich.
Say, I should have listened to you years ago when you told me you should just run for something. At least people know you here.
Well, the thing is your name is so unique. They will assume, oh, he's Indian. He must be smart.
Yeah.
For as
I'm
much
pretty
as,
I'm pretty sure that Vivek Ramaswamy changed that notion.
yeah, boy, he burned out, didn't he?
Mhm.
Jesus. So what I would say on that is, the Asian population, meaning, Vietnamese, Chinese, Indian, um, are intimidating to the average white people here because they have most of the positions of knowledge, meaning doctors,
Mhm.
psychologists, psychiatrists, health department, all these kind of things. So they're in all of these positions of knowledge,
Yeah.
but they'll talk smack to them.
Mm.
Yeah. So welcome to the world, bro. Welcome to America. America.
There was
But I
one.
know I just said a whole bunch of convoluted stuff. Back to the original point, we did not hear Joe come out screaming about the courts and the Merrick Garland and we got to get rid of the
Mhm.
FBI and all this other stuff because you didn't like the decision they made.
I swear. Yeah, his statement was just normal. It was like a father just releasing something to the press about, yeah, we stand behind him, but this is what it
Yeah.
is. And,
If he did it now, would I say the law is stupid? Like the law asked you if you were addicted to drugs, and we all know for a fact that people who are have a denial process and always say no.
yeah, that's that same thing, no, on my immigration form. Are you a terrorist?
Yeah.
Who the fuck is going to click on that and be like, yes?
Well, when I was filling out my one for India,
It did ask you, right? Do you have any terrorist affiliations? Who in
we
their right mind will do it?
didn't make any jokes about terrorism. I own an Irish pub.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe somebody has, not me, of course, because I didn't lie on my application. Okay, hey, see the picture of Mount Everest cuisines that I sent you?
Mm-mm, I didn't think. I've been stuck at a meeting all day.
Well, I'm sorry. It was Christine and I went up there and ate, and man, I want to tell you,
Oh, yes, the food. When you said Mount Everest, I honestly thought of the actual mountain, and I was like, I didn't see shit about the mountain you sent me. Yes, the
it was
restaurant Mount Everest in Edmond. Yes, I did see that.
yeah, it was fantastic. That was awesome. I wish you were here. You would have enjoyed it.
I know. It looked delicious, even though I'm surrounded by Indian restaurants.
Right. Well, I mean, so it's it's not a luxury for you. I mean, but for here, we've got maybe three that I think are heads above everybody else, and one of those is Pakistani.
Mhm.
But yeah, their menu is like 100 things long, and I had to Google a few things to see what it was, and they showed a picture of what the tray should look like, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. Nepali cuisine. I believe it. I have the words right on that.
Oh,
Nepali.
Nepali. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was great. So life is decent over here, brother. Me and the dog, baby. Me and the dog. Um,
How was your trip to Pahaska?
so we went up there and did, my son hadn't been up to see his mom's grave. So I had a couple of deaths this past year. But the courthouse was wild. He was up looking for his grandfather and grandmother are from that area. And so he is looking for specific lands and mineral rights and or land that they still own. And one of them is on the Osage Nation's property. So it's not in the regular land records.
Oh, so you actually have to go to the Osage, the tribal
Right.
council or whatever, their office.
I believe that's how it works. And so most people don't know we have these things. There was a reservation system here where they put the defeated tribes. Osage were not a defeated tribe. They
Mm.
purchased this land to get away from the white settlers up in Missouri, literally, and landed on this enormous bed of oil, and they became the richest people on earth. So, of course,
Mhm.
people them and stealing their stuff. So it's more of a history lesson up there. I don't know what he's really going to find, but they may have 500 acres still of of land that you could use to graze cattle. But if
Hmm.
you haven't done it in 30 years, how much do you owe in taxes?
Oh, yeah.
Taxes on the land. So in America, everything is a business. If it does not make money, it's gone. So that sounds sad, but that's the truth.
Yep. Back taxes for something like that. Mm.
But I had a real nice dinner at this famous lady here called Pioneer Woman. She's one of the Drummond family, one of the really wealthy Scots that ended up with a lot of land down here. And her brother, cousin, or whatever is the attorney general. But she built up an old building downtown that needed to be renovated. Look, I used to go to this place 30 years ago, and it was a dump.
Mm.
So if it's been oil revenues, gambling revenues, whatever they've done. But here's the difference in tribal government in America and government in America. The state of Oklahoma didn't take federal money for food for children to eat during the summer because kids in Oklahoma have enough food, which is not true. So the tribal governments of all of these sovereign nations have stepped in and are doing food for the kids for summer. Now, will they be able to cover all of them? No, because they're only on a limited area of the nation. But that's the difference. They really do look out for their citizens. There may be some graft, there may be somebody kicked back, but they do the right thing generally, the bigger
Right.
tribe.
Don't like the tribal nations also provide like tuition assistance and all kinds of assistance for their citizens?
So the other thing I would point out when it came to giving out COVID shots, they could have only given them to their tribal citizens. Now they let everybody come.
Yeah.
And considering the history, that
Knowing
would
the
be your
history,
time.
they might have been nervous, Sean. Like, oh no.
Or time for revenge. Oh, you guys didn't help us during smallpox. Welcome. Come on, get the blanket. Yeah. It's the chief of the Cherokee Nation, which is the biggest one in America, I believe. I hung out with him at a deal out at the state capitol, and real nice, and he was weirdly familiar with my stuff.
I'm pretty
Like
sure
I was,
like years
yeah,
ago at the Cowboy Museum, he was there as like it was some sort of luncheon, those things that I had to go to before in financial services where we had to just meet people. Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Chuck Hoskins, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so that's all that's going on here. We're to like middle of the summer, and thank God, business and everything's good, so no complaints. What else you want to? What else for my today, my friend?
We got daily rains, which is fun. Yeah,
So you
yesterday I
might get.
sent you the temperature, right? It's like 63 at night at times.
So these are rains you should have gotten 2 months ago.
Now, this one is actually at the right spot. The ones that we didn't get just didn't show up.
Wow. So what do you do without that water?
See, something weird happens here every now and then where one of the days we had almost 10 or 11 inches of rain, which is the highest amount of rain in like 130 some years. So it it's just happening as a torrential downpour rather than those rains that used to come every day for like a
Yeah.
month. Mm-hmm.
So you creatively capture it.
Yeah.
So we had the torrential stuff happening in the center of the U.S. in California, but the center of the U.S. was over an aquifer called the Oglala Aquifer. It's like 8 states. And I was like, did we really not divert any of that water into the aquifer? And they're like, no, it's too late. And I go, oh, God, this is why we're going to die here. This is literally.
Sometime back, like just human beings, no, just to annoy like someone I was doing like one of these open mics and I knew that the audience wasn't paying attention. So I was just doing random shit. So I just started this whole thing by I didn't even say hello, nothing. I just grabbed the mic and I said, they say our lives are not but a fleeting dream, that in cosmological terms, a human life begins, burns, and slowly smolders into ashes. That may be so, but it feels longer, especially when you're sitting in that uncomfortable chair listening to my dumbass, is what I said. But a
Did they
couple
get
of
it?
them, yeah, like three of them laughed, and I just did the rest of it to just them. I didn't give a shit about the rest.
Sometimes there are audiences, they're just there to drink. Well, I'm gonna roll and go make some bread unless you got something else you want to cover, my man. It's up to
We
you.
actually good, dude.